Hi, one of my many rules about wildlife photography is take no notice of weather forecasts. They're just not accurate enough and you just got to carry on and go for it anyway. But on the whole, it's been very successful. I'm photographing Mandarin ducks. Forest of Dean is known for its Mandarin duck, and that's another rule of thumb I have about wildlife photography. Once you're doing something, don't just do it once, don't do it for half an hour. You work on it as a project and keep doing it. It's the middle of February now, they're displaying, they're mating, chasing each other, fighting, and it's been very good. I've done them here, this is Soudley Ponds, I've done them at Cannock Ponds. I've also been down to Richmond Park in London, which is a super place to photograph Mandarin ducks. One of the nice things about photographing Mandarin duck is they are very gregarious. They can go about in very large flocks, and when you get a bird in groups, then you start to get interaction, fighting, squabbling with each other, and that can make for very dramatic photography. It's not just male against male, the females get involved too. And this is being filmed during the month of February, and many species of bird now are getting ready for the spring, so you tend to get more interaction. Although a bit like coots, although most of the fighting takes place in the spring, coots and mandarins, they can fight all the year round. As ever, I just love looking at birds in slow motion. They look so different. And whenever they have these short squabbles, they immediately have a bathe afterwards. Not just the victor, the victim as well. The one that's been chased is also bathing. And then the inevitable wing stretch. I came across a reference on the internet to the mandarin being voted as the most beautiful bird in the world. I'm a bit sceptical about that. It's certainly beautiful, but there's a lot of competition for that title. You start looking at some birds from South America or from the Far East, and there's some absolute stunners. I would imagine that the peacock might have an argument about that. And then there's the golden pheasant too. So there's three species, mandarin, peacock and golden pheasant, all found in the UK, all coming from the Far East. And all very, very attractive. You know, it might not even win the title of the most attractive duck either, because again, in South America there's some beauties. More than any other duck in the UK, it climbs up in trees a lot. It's very common to see them quite high up as well. In fact, they nest in trees. They nest in hollows in the trees. Here's a female. She is certainly a lot drabber than the male. But she is certainly the centre of attention at this time of year. This is quite a common sight to see a couple of males surrounding a female, following her about. Now watch the female in the middle. As soon as I see a female duck lower its head like that and stretch out in front, I think she's inviting the male to mate. But it doesn't happen here. In fact, frequently it didn't happen. Maybe in mandarin ducks it means something else. And when this male approached her very close along the side of her body, I really think they're about to mate, although the male doesn't normally do it the first time. He comes around the other side as well. You see this with mallards and tufted ducks, all sorts of ducks. They approach the female from various angles. But here, nothing. They're not very noisy birds, but they do this lovely stretching and bubbling in the water, very much like a ruddy duck. Ruddy duck have been practically eliminated from the UK now, but that's something they do, sort of blow bubbles in the water. They remind me of a large sailing ship from the Middle Ages, just calmly drifting across the water. And I love the way this bird's head goes up. And you can see it's almost like a skinny neck holding this huge hammerhead up in the air. And those very large sails from the wings on the side of the bird. Amazing spectacle. All of the footage is taken on the Sony A1 with the 200 to 600mm lens. Some of it shot at 60 frames per second and then slowed down, and some of it at 120 frames per second, all in 4K. I love that bubbling. Now this looks very purposeful, the male leading the female away from the crowd of mandarin ducks, trying to find a bit of quiet open water. As I'm filming this, I'm getting very optimistic they're about to mate. She stretches her neck out, he approaches from one side, and this is very routine. They come from one side and then the other. Sometimes he goes back to the other side again, but rarely does he mate straight away. And climbs on and grabs hold of the neck. And once you've mated, it's a routine. You have to have a bathe, both the male and the female. And when you've bathed, you wing stretch. Now these are taken at Richmond Park in London, and the advantage there is you can get right down to the water level. There's no fence in the way. And I do like these low angle shots where you're at the same level as the bird. Easy to keep in the frame when they're not rushing across the water. Another pair looking as if they're about to mate. But this can go on for a very long time. The Sony A1 is a brilliant camera for autofocus in stills mode, but in video mode it's not quite as good. It's probably the best camera I've used in video mode for autofocus, but it does lose it, and unfortunately it lost it just as the male climbed on top. And it took it a couple of seconds to recover it. There is a very good argument for always manually focusing when you shoot in video, but I would prefer it if the next generation of cameras could autofocus as well as they do in stills mode. The mandarin duck is an introduced species into the UK. It comes from China, and it was very popular in waterfowl collections, and whether it has been deliberately released or escaped from those collections, it is now a widespread bird in the UK. Whether you regard it as the most beautiful bird in the world, that's a matter of opinion, but it's certainly a very interesting one to photograph. They come out on the grass to feed, and when they get disturbed, they run back to the water. I'll finish off with a few stills pictures. Thanks for watching.